Hi there, my name's Chris Widener. I'm one of the co-founders of ROI Expert Advisors, and I just want to let you know that we are rebranding the Big Mo Real Estate Radio Show to ROI Real Estate Radio. Still great content. We're still going to be motivating, still going to be helping you make more money, but just wanted to let you know we are now ROI Real Estate Radio.
Well, welcome this week to another episode. I've got my good friend here, Chris Widener. And this is the Big Mo Real Estate Radio Show, and where we help you get motivated, build momentum, and make more money. We always want to be making more money. And so, speaking of motivation, I'm privileged to share this time with my good friend Chris Widener. Chris comes out of the speaking world, and I'm looking forward to interviewing Chris today and finding out a little bit more about where he came from, a little bit about his life. We're going to have a get to know Chris Widener time, and I'm looking forward to this. So welcome, folks, Chris Widener to the show. Chris, say hi to everybody.
Good to be here. Appreciate it,
buddy. I'm looking forward to this time, and so let's start real quick. Maybe within your introduction, maybe how do we end up meeting? I mean, we had a great time a few months back, and how we started and how this whole thing came about, Big Mo Real Estate Radio, and tell us a little bit about yourself and about your time in the speaking world, and then maybe before that, let's hear about your family and about your beautiful wife, Denise.
Absolutely. So Denise and I live here in Scottsdale, and there was a real estate convention coming to town. And they wrote out to everybody and said, hey, we've got some spots left open in the golf tournament. I guess it wasn't a golf tournament, but it was people golfing together. And so it was kind of funny. It's kind of funny. We've got two Chris's doing this podcast. Well, golfing that day, we had three Chris's. We had Chris Stege, Chris Widener, and then another Chris that was a friend of yours. And so we got paired up and we golfed. And I made a promise. I don't know if you remember that promise. I said today, because I hadn't played golf in like 5 years, but I used to be a really good golfer. And I said, I make a promise. I will have the best shot of the day, and I will have the worst shot of the day. And I think I fulfilled that. A couple of them, I really got a crank on some of those. But
you had some good shots that day.
Yeah, but I lost. But I did have the best shot of the day and the worst shot of the day. But no, so we met there. My wife is a realtor, she's a real estate agent. We went to that conference. It was literally 7 minutes from our house. And I helped her build her real estate organization. And that's how we met. And we hit it right off. We ended up going out for dinner, and we just had a lot of fun and really enjoy you. And then we just started saying, what if we started a real estate podcast? And so, I thought, it'd be really great blend with somebody like you, who's really, really, really deep in the real estate world, but also has an enjoyment and appreciation and a pursuit of personal development, things like that. I come from that personal development world. But I also know a little bit about real estate, married to a realtor. But I also, my mother growing up, my dad died when I was 4. And my dad was at the cusp of making a lot of money. He was actually making a lot of money. His last year alive, 1969, he made $90,000 in 1969. Most Americans today would say, sign me up for the $90,000 a year plan. I think the average income in America's household income is like 40 grand or something like that. So 1969, we were living in a big mansion, Sandpoint Country Club up in Seattle. It was where all the new money lived. The old money all lived in Broadmoor Country Club, but the new money was all in Sandpoint Country Club. He bought us the biggest house with the most spectacular views. That house recently sold for, I think, $3.2 million. But in 1968, he bought it for $55,000, and my mother thought he was out of his mind to spend that much money on a house. When he passed away, it was quick. 6 months, found out he had cancer, died 6 months later. May 1st, he had flu-like symptoms. November 18th, he passed away. He was severely underinsured. He only had $30,000 worth of life insurance because he was 41. He didn't think he was going to die. So I'm going to make my public service announcement now. Go get life insurance. I'm dead serious. I had a coaching client once, young guy making almost a $500,000 a year. And on our first call, I found out he had no life insurance, married with 3 kids. And he'd already prepaid me a lot of money to coach him for a year. And I told him, I said, listen, here's the deal. Do not call me back for your second call until you have at least $3 million worth of life insurance. And he goes, and I said, I'm serious. Do not call me for your second call until you have $3 million worth of life insurance. Well, he was like 34 years old. He got it for like $200 a month for 20 years or something like that. And it's a big deal. It affected my life a lot. Now, granted, you know, God works things out, but that began a really big downward spiral for me. 28 homes, 11 different schools, shipped off to live with relatives twice, once in the 4th grade, once in the 9th grade. A lot of trouble in school. You know, my mentor, Zig Ziglar, he had a saying. He said, I was in the half of the class that made the top half possible. Well, I was in the 10th of the class that made the top 90% possible. I was 149th out of 172 kids in my high school graduating class in terms of grade point. Eked my way out of high school, got into college. I got my life turned around and ended up building a speaking career. I was a pastor for 14 years. But while I was doing that, I was also speaking to General Electric, Cisco Systems, Microsoft, Harvard Business School, and ended up ghostwriting for a guy named John Maxwell. Many people have heard of John, wrote his nationally syndicated column for about 1.5 years in the early 2000s. That led to me being approached by a guy named Jim Rohn. Many people know Jim. Jim is very well known. Some people know him through Tony Robbins because he gave Tony his first job. So when Tony was 17 years old, he went to work selling Jim Rohn seminars. And if you look it up online, you can see Jim Rohn's memorial service. And the speakers were me and Tony Robbins and Darren Hardy and Dennis Waitley, Brian Tracy, Les Brown, some of those guys. In fact, one of my favorite pictures, I keep it right up here, is the 6 of us after the memorial service snapped a photo. And so I was very fortunate to be able to end up working with Jim. I ended up with a television show in Dallas called Made for Success, where I interviewed, you know, successful athletes, politicians, business people. And that led to being asked by Zig Ziglar to co-host his television show called True Performance. And I always tell people when I walked into the studio for the first time, I'd never met Zig, but I owned a company at that point. We were selling audio programs through Costco and Sam's Club. And we were selling between 50,000 copies a month and 75,000 copies a month, somewhere in the $1 million to $2.5 million, $1.5 million to $2 million a month range there. And Zig was on like in all my boxes. So I had a relationship with him in that I was sending him lots of money every quarter, but I'd never met him. And I remember walking into the studio and I felt like a priest who'd been called to the Vatican to serve communion with the Pope. You know, this was probably 2007. So I was 40-ish, 41, something like that. And here was Zig Ziglar, the legend. And you can still see those shows actually on YouTube. If you Google or search on YouTube for Chris Widener, Zig Ziglar, True Performance, you can watch some of those episodes and such. But no, I've been very fortunate in my speaking career. I've written 22 books. My 23rd comes out February 1st next year. But the latest book is called Lasting Impact: How to Create a Life and Business that Live Beyond You. It's taken me all over the world. I've done 2,500 speeches all over the world, 22 books translated into 14 languages, millions of copies in print, and it's been an extraordinary life, particularly I think considering where I came from. And, you know, the funny thing is my mom sold real estate growing up. And so when I met Denise, I said, look, here's the deal. I'm not marrying a real estate agent. And she's like, why not? And I'm like, I'm not getting married at 52 to sit at home alone 4 nights a week, you know, because that's how Chris was growing up. Mom was out, you know, selling houses and such. And, but we ended up falling in love, getting married, got married in Florence, Italy. About 2 years ago. And I have 4 children from my first marriage and my 5th grandbaby on the way there. And then Denise has 2 beautiful girls who I consider my own as well. They do not have grandbabies. They are actually at University of Alabama and Vanderbilt between the 2 of them. And so I have 1 son, 5 daughters, and 5 grandchildren. So
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of offspring. So
Wow.
yeah.
Well, so speaking of
fun.
lasting impact and dad dying at a young age and you being in the presence and having a connection with some of these top-notch leaders. I mean, I remember, cassette tapes from Zig Ziglar and, just absorbing every single nugget that I could, at such a young age. And so how cool is that to be able to be in the presence of these leaders and to really begin how they were influential in you starting your career as a speaker and as an author. And you said
22 books. Yeah.
22 books.
Yeah.
And so, wow. And is there, just curious, is there a specific topic that maybe is your most favorite that you've spoken on?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I interviewed you on our other podcast, I talked about niching down. And I remember, at the beginning, I just thought, well, I'm a motivational speaker. And I actually hired a coach to help me learn about the speaking business. And I mean, this was early 90s. I paid him $7,500 for the year. And it was a big stretch for me because I was a pastor, not making a ton of money, but I wanted to get into the speaking world as well. I just think it's important for us to understand that we need to be coachable. We need to learn. And I remember when he said, "You're no longer going to be a motivational speaker." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. What am I going to be?" And he did something really interesting. This was back, I still had a handheld phone. Like, I mean, I might have had a cell phone, but I mean, I was on a landline. And he says, "How long is your phone cord?" And I said, "Long enough." And he said, "Walk over to your bookshelf." So I did. I walked over to my bookshelf. And he said, "What's the number one topic on your bookshelf?" And I did a quick scan and I said, "Leadership." And he goes, "Have you ever been a leader?" And I said, "Well, I was quarterback of the football team, captain of my basketball team, point guard on my basketball team, catcher on the baseball team, student body president one year in college. And, yeah, I've had a lot of leadership roles." And he goes, "You're a leadership speaker now." Okay. So I started diving into leadership. And then from there, I was working with Jim Rohn International, doing extraordinary leaders seminars and things like that. And Kyle Wilson, who was the president of Jim Rohn International at the time, he said, "You know what I think you should write a book on and do some audio on?" And I said, "What?" He said, "Influence." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Chris, I don't know anybody that can pull their cell phone out and pull out billionaires, CEOs of major Fortune 100 companies, rock stars, professional athletes, like and influence and have worked with everybody." And I had never thought about that. And he said, "How does a kid who grew up in 28 homes, 11 different schools, who, oh, by the way, I didn't even mention, started drugs in the 6th grade, smoked opium for the first time in the 8th grade. Like, I mean, I was headed in the wrong direction. How do you go from there and end up speaking on the biggest stages all around the world, 25,000 people at a time, talking about, leadership and success and all these kinds of things? How did you gain so much influence?" And I'd never thought about it. So I thought, how do you gain influence? So I wrote a book called The Art of Influence. It's probably my 4th best-selling book, but it's my best-selling speech. So I've probably given 1,000 speeches on the book, The Art of Influence. And the reason why is everybody needs to influence. And frankly, real estate agents, you need to know how to influence people. And so, the working definition of influence is the ability to change another person's thoughts, beliefs, or actions. So I'll just ask the realtors on the show today, how would your business grow if you could change other people's thoughts, beliefs, and actions? If you had more influence in their life and could move them to action, how would your business grow? And so I started teaching the basic tenets of influence and wrote a book about it. I had a 2-book deal with Random House. The first was called The Angel Inside. That debuted at number 2 on the Wall Street Journal, number 7 on the New York Times, number 3 on Amazon overall, not in a subcategory. And so my second book was The Art of Influence, and it basically teaches people how to gain trust, respect, admiration, and loyalty from your clients, your prospects, the people you're selling to. How would your business grow if you could gain people's trust, respect, admiration, and loyalty? And that message has really resonated with people. But frankly, it's not just in business, it's in life. How would your marriage be if you had more trust, respect, admiration, and loyalty? How would your relationship with your children if you had more trust, respect, admiration, and loyalty? How would your relationships at, on the homeowners association or the church that you belong to, if you had more trust, respect, admiration, and loyalty? So that's really what I teach people. And it's really about our own character rather than about our skill set. In my seminars, I do a big exercise where I basically show people that there's about 6 or 7 skills that you need, but there's 20 to 30 character traits that you need in order to be successful. And so I focus pretty heavily on the character side, although we also do a lot of skill set training and goal setting and, all the time management and all those kinds of things. But a pretty big emphasis on the character side and who you are. Zig always used to say, the problem is most people have a shortened equation. They say, what do you want to have? Tell me what I need to do to get what I want to have, right? It's do, have. And almost everybody has been to a skill-based seminar where, I want to be wealthy. Tell me what I need to do to get wealthy. I want to have a good marriage. Tell me what I need to do to have a good marriage. I want to be a good parent. Tell me what I need to do, or I want to sell more real estate. Tell me what I need to do. Zig always said there's a third part, and it's the very foundational part. He said the real equation is be, do, have, because who you are at your core drives what you do, which produces your results. And so I always go back to that be. Who am I at my core? And how does that affect what I do, which produces my results?
It's really good. And I'm sure throughout our time together, we're going to really come down and really get down to the core of this book and the art of influence and some of these key things that we can learn from. And we're also going to talk about how to gain an unfair advantage over your competition, and we talk about that know, like, and trust, and gaining that loyalty, being a specialist in your specific niche. And there's a know, like, and trust, but there's also something else, and it's that how are you remembered?
Right.
And that's what's important. So there's a know, like, and trust, and how are you remembered, which is going to gain loyalty. And we want to help you close more real estate deals. And you've got someone here that is in the day-to-day life of building a real estate empire, building a company, which, I'm in multiple markets throughout the country. And Chris, you are speaking Fortune 500 companies and million billionaire network of folks. And so I guess a great question might be is the value that you bring to a real estate agent. What are some things? Your wife is in the real estate space. She's in the day-to-day operations, and your partnership together, and how are you growing? How are you influencing agents, and what are some things that you can provide to agents that may be of greater value?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. In my seminars, I talk about how you need 2 sides. You need skills and character. If you have skills with no character, you're a charlatan. If you have all character with no skills, you're a nice guy, but probably not who I'm calling to buy a house from. I mean, if you're just a really nice guy, but you don't know how to, do the listings and fill out the paperwork and negotiate the deal, probably not going to use you. I like you. I'll go to dinner with you, but you're kind of a nice guy who doesn't have the skill set to serve. But if you have the great skills, and even if you've got a niche, like you're the golf course guy or you're the condo queen or whatever, but if your reputation is you're difficult to work with, your business isn't going to grow. So I think one of the real great things about our podcast, Chris, is that we're going to teach people both sides. You're going to get skills to master. You're going to get character to focus on and to improve your life. Jim Rohn always used to say, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. It doesn't mean don't work hard on your job. It just means work harder on work really hard on your job, but work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Because I don't think most people understand how much who you are drives and really emphasizes your skill set. So we're going to talk a lot about things like on your side of things, all that stuff about running a real estate business. But then we're also going to talk about how do you manage your time? If you don't manage your time, then people are not going to show up. And if you say, hey, I'll meet you at the house at 3 and it's 4:30 when you show up, people are not going to want to do business with you, right? You need to be able to discipline yourself and utilize time management, communication skills, learning how to communicate better and more efficiently, clearly and concisely, those kinds of ways, because this is a communication business, whether it's communicating what the other side is saying or what the price is, what the opportunities are, or what you're looking for, extracting that from somebody who's looking for a house. Those are all communication skills. So just a lot of really great stuff. We're going to have tons and tons of stuff to talk about. We're even going to do some stuff where people want to ask questions. Maybe we'll do some shows where it's nothing but your questions. And Chris and I will deal with those, and we're just going to have a lot of fun with it. And I'm super excited about partnering with you, Chris, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
I can't wait. You know, the cool thing is, because of our time in the space, in the real estate space and the speaking space, we're going to have some guest appearances on this show. Agents that are doing multi-million-dollar deals in production per year. We consider icon agents who have mastered or are mastering a specific niche craft that you can be able to learn from, and those best practices that they're able to implement each day. But Chris, you know, out of all of the leaders and the influencers, speakers that you've been able to work with, there's got to be some quote. There's got to be something special, something that is, you know, like you said, it's on your wall, something that you are reminded of each day. What's you know, I've got a couple more questions, but what's that quote? Well,
it's there's tons of quotes, and of course, having worked with John Maxwell, Jim Rohn, and Zig Ziglar, I could pull just literally dozens just from them. But I always go back to the old Zig quote. And by the way, just a little bit of trivia here. Do you know what Zig Ziglar's real first name is?
Wow.
You'll never guess. It's Hillary. His first name is Hillary. And in his autobiography, he says, "Now you know why they call me Zig." But Zig had a great quote. He said, "You can have anything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want out of life." And I would say that's true in real estate. If you can help enough other people get that home of their dreams, you'll have the home of your dreams. You'll have you will have all the money you know what to do with if you can figure out how to serve people in finding their home. And there's just really, truly no excuse for not being successful in real estate, because if you focus on service, you will be able to get anything and everything you want out. And so that's the quote I go to most. It's the point number 3 in every single one of my speeches when I talk about service, because service is how you gain loyalty. But that's probably the quote I hang my hat on most. And I really do try to consider myself a servant. You know, at the level I'm at in the speaking world, you run around with a lot of heady people who think that they're all that in a bag of chips. And the reality is a lot of people show up and they think that, you know, they're qualified to say, you know, I want my ham and cheese sandwiches cut into star shapes. I want my green room at 72 degrees. My water needs to be, you know, room temperature. You know, I want all the green M&Ms extracted. You know, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. I always tell people I'm going to be the easiest speaker you've ever worked with. And the best thing I can ever hear after an event is when the meeting planner comes to me and says, "You were right. You're the easiest speaker we've ever worked with." And that's all about the commitment to service. Mm-hmm. It's not about me. Mm-hmm. It's about you. It's about, in real estate, it's about the person buying the home or selling the home. In marriage, it's not about you. It's about your spouse. Mm-hmm. In life, it's not about you. It's about the other guy. And so that's something I really try to focus on, is how do I serve other people so they can get what they want out of life?
You know, that's so good. And that's really one of the reasons why we're here, why we decided to begin this podcast is to serve others. We're at a place in our lives, I think, myself and Chris, where you are, where we've had some challenges. We've had some real life scenarios. We've had some great successes. We've had a great network of folks, but we want to be able to serve you, the real estate agent. We want to help you build a greater business and add value, create greater value in your business, and share some light and be a light. And so, you know, you've got several speaking engagements this year. Maybe what are some of the upcoming speaking engagements that we can know about? What are you doing? What are you looking forward to over the next?
We've got just some tons of great stuff. I think people are looking forward to getting back out to meetings. People, human beings are relational, right? They want to be with other people. They don't like being locked in their houses. So we're just excited. I mean, some of my stuff is public seminars. Most of them are privately held, company hires me or whatever. But no, I'm just super excited to get back out there. I think eventually we're going to end up doing some Big Mo real estate seminars and bringing people in. It'll be a lot of fun to be able to do that, but just very excited to be partnered with you and helping people. Like you said, we're going to help them get motivated, build more momentum, and make more money. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So jump on and enjoy the ride.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time today. What a privilege and honor to share this time with you. And folks, if you're listening, make sure that you like us, wherever that may be, if it's on Instagram or Facebook, on YouTube, wherever it may be. Make sure that you do like us. We have several more of these to come over the next several weeks and into this year of 2021. And we look forward to spending this time with you. And so bigmorealestateradio.com is where you can find us. And until next time, we'll see you again. Thank you, Chris.
Hey, folks, I'm hoping that you enjoyed that great episode. And I just want to remind you that we are now ROI Real Estate Radio. Be sure to check us out and share this video with all those who will enjoy it. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.